All right, guys, so let's kick this off. Today we are talking all about binge eating and overeating and what causes it, and also what you can do about it. The reason I'm talking about this is my background is 15 years of experience in the health and fitness industry, hardcore into creating better bodies, and through all of that, ended up going deeper into psychology and getting my master's in counseling psychology because I realized that the magic actually lies in how we think about things, because it's the thought that actually puts actions into play and that creates the behaviors that lead to whatever kind of body we end up having. So a lot of what we're talking about today will be a mixture of the physiology as well as the psychology of overeating and binge eating. Hey, Mary, welcome to the conversation. Good to see you, girl. So guys, feel free to just drop comments. Like, the more interactive you are, the better. And if I don't get to them right away, I'll scroll back through near the end. But if you have questions coming up, just pop those comments in, and I will be checking them throughout this talk. Jonathan, great to see you. Hey there. Okay, guys, so what in the hell causes binge eating and overeating? Because sometimes it can feel so mysterious, like it's just this, we're being taken over by some wild beast that's just making us eat all the things. But actually, it's not mysterious at all. It's pure science. The main thing that causes binge eating and overeating is what I have on the board behind me, which is dieting and restricting. So let me set this up for you. The body is an insanely wise and intuitive system that wants to run and perform optimally. It wants to survive and thrive, which is what I put right here in the middle, where you have this pendulum drawing, and then the body wants to survive and thrive. So what happens when we diet or restrict calories is we're bringing that pendulum up to one side. We're going away from this happy, sweet place, and we're depriving the body of calories, of energy, of nutrients, all the vitamins and minerals, etc. Or we may be over-exercising or spending too much energy. Or we may be eating foods that are just very low in nutrition. So even though the food filled our stomach, it didn't have any nutrients in it that actually nourished our body. So all of those things create a deprivation, a restriction. And then that pulls the pendulum up to one side. And sure enough, the body will have to compensate and bring it back towards the middle. And usually what happens is we overshoot into the opposite direction, which is overeating or binge eating. It's just a natural physiological response to deprivation. And it's the body's inherent wisdom trying to survive. So really the fact that this even happens just shows that you can't outsmart the body. You can't trick the body by dieting or cutting calories, because eventually the body is going to do what it needs to do to survive. It sees dieting and deprivation as a threat. So that's exactly what's happening in that whole vicious cycle. Generally, if a person looks back in their history, they can say, yeah, you know what? I did go on a diet, but I never binged or really overeaten until that time, until I went on that first diet. Or I didn't start binge eating and overeating until I started eating really nutrient poor food. There just weren't enough nutrients in it, and the body needed more nutrients. So it asked for more food, trying to get the nutrients in. So let me know if that makes sense to you guys. The next thing we're going to look at is energy imbalance, which is pretty much what I was just saying. If we are burning more energy than we are taking in, or if we're just not taking in enough energy in the form of food, our body will try to get that energy back by down-regulating our system. So our metabolism will go down, our metabolic rate, we'll feel lethargic and tired, and we'll be more hungry. We'll want to eat more. So that what happens a lot when I work with athletes and people who just exercise a lot and go really hard. If you're like busting ass in the CrossFit gym, or you're out training for a marathon, you are going to want to eat a lot of food. That is your body's response trying to survive. I see that Brooklyn asked about, oh, Spires, damn, good to see you, man. This is awesome. Victoria, wonderful to see you. Danielle, great to see you on. Go Gravitas, girl. And Brooklyn wants to know about emotional eating, and we'll get there, I promise. All right, so next, nutrient-poor food and a highly palatable diet. So that's basically what we call the junk food. So any kind of food that has a lot of calories, salt, sugar, saturated fats, whatever, that it tastes great, like it tastes amazing, but there's very few nutrients. There's, you look at vitamin A, vitamin C, calcium, magnesium, vitamin K2, vitamin D3, like all the great omega fats, all that stuff would be lacking in that particular food. It has the macronutrients of like protein, carbohydrate, and fat, but it doesn't have the micronutrients and the minerals that we really need for survival. So when we're eating a diet that's really low in all those micronutrients, we're going to need to eat more food to get that micronutrient dose up. It's like your body wanting that multivitamin in a way, but it wants it from a natural food source. So if you're eating a diet that's highly palatable but low in nutrition, then you're going to end up eating more just to make up for that deficit. Again, that's that pendulum swinging from one side to the other, trying to get the nutrition in. Another big cause of overeating and binge eating, I like to point to our culture and also our lack of coping skills to deal with emotions. And that's what Brooklyn had brought up around emotional eating. Let's see real quick. Elliot says, as an ups man, I eat enough for 3 people at night. So Elliot works as an ups man, right? So you're so physical because you're like running back and forth, you're carrying packages. And since you burn so much energy, you have to make sure you're eating that. That was the energy imbalance comment, right? You have to eat to meet that need. So back to culture and lack of coping skills. So I'm gonna maybe be a little bit out there for you guys. I don't know, I'll try it out and you can see what you think. Cause I'll say, I tend to think kind of abstractly at times, but this is how I see it. From the time of being little girls, and I'm speaking mostly to the women here, but men can relate too, we were taught a certain definition of what it means to be attractive and beautiful. And it was very much that Barbie doll image, which is tall and slim and blonde and whatever. That's not really the definition of beauty. But if we grow up thinking that's what it is, and we're always trying to get there, then the methods we have to use to get there will be basically extremely hard on the body and not sustainable. Like any woman that's out there working her ass off in the gym or trying to eat less and less or eat cleaner and cleaner with the hopes of achieving this body that our culture says is the ideal, she's setting herself up to swing in the opposite direction and overeat and binge eat because she's moving in a direction that's unnatural. Like our body has an inherent place it wants to be. Our genetics determine that. Where we are in our life cycle determines that, as well as the situation around us, like how busy we are at work, how stressed out we are we raising kids, how much are we working? All of those things determine what this human body suit needs to be. And it's created and designed in order to survive and thrive and reproduce. That's it. It's not trying to be like bikini model ready. That's irrelevant to the body. This is an organism, right? So when we're chasing some ideal that's been planted in our heads from a very early age that actually is irrelevant when it comes to our survival, we're setting ourselves up for a hard fall. And I think that really we need a big shift in our culture around accepting our body at a truly healthy and natural place. And that's kind of what I get into down further on this whiteboard behind me. Like, what if we could really see beauty from a totally different standpoint? What if being healthy was actually beautiful? What if feeling full of energy and like wanting to kick ass in life and just eat the things that taste amazing and are nutritious and healthy and not have to think about it so much and move on and not be obsessed about having a six-pack or whatever? Maybe that could be a new definition of beauty. So I'm throwing that out there, that living in a culture where we're so obsessed with having something that in order to have it actually means we have to do unhealthy things to get there, that in itself is a problem. And waking up to that can be hugely powerful. So chew on that for a little while. Like, what if we could let go of that? How are we being influenced by our culture and our environment to do things that may be harmful to us? Why are we even chasing the goal of having a six-pack? Why does that really matter? And so many people who've achieved it, myself being one of them, and some of the people on this call today will say the same thing, that we chased it. We wanted to have the perfect body. We needed the six-pack or to be ripped or have that bikini body or what the hell ever it was. And we got it. We got to the end of the rainbow and there was a pot of horse shit. There was nothing great there. We actually felt depressed. We felt like, God, I'm here. I have an amazing body, but I'm not any happier. It's hard to maintain. I don't get to just live life freely. I can't just go out with my friends and eat whatever. I'm always thinking about it. I don't feel good. A lot of people have anxiety and depression when they're in that deprived state. It's not going to make life better. You just look different. And that can be really devastating to say, now what do I do? Now that I've achieved this goal, now what? So I want people to really consider that, like, why do we do what we do? Why are you really dieting? Why are you really exercising so much? What's the real purpose? Are you doing it for health reasons or for aesthetic reasons? They can be two very different things. All right, that was my soapbox. Thank you very much. I will step off of it for now. Marvin, good to see you. Hey, Valerie, great to see you guys. All right, so the next point, moving down, this would be body image issues. Oh, wait, and lack of coping skills. This kind of goes together. So earlier, Brooklyn had commented asking about emotional eating. So oftentimes what I see with many of my clients is that they have not yet developed the tools they needed to deal with certain emotions. And so at the end of the day, those emotions have kind of piled up throughout the day. Maybe it's stress or anxiety or feeling lonely or feeling bored or feeling deprived or just sad. They get to the end of the day, and instead of having the appropriate coping skills to actually manage those emotions, they just reach for food. And lots of times that was set up early in life as children. Oh, hey, honey, are you feeling sad? Here, have a cookie, kind of thing, or a way to have fun. Like, fun times always come with food and cake and yay. So noticing how our emotions can be very linked to food and try to decouple them because they don't need to be linked. So a lot of times I work with my clients on how to parcel out emotional needs versus true physiological food needs and to put them in separate buckets. And when we have an emotional need coming up, to actually learn the appropriate coping skills to deal with it instead of eating food. Because eating food actually, of course, as you know, doesn't really solve the emotional need, right? And then, of course, the body image issues was exactly what I was just talking about, right? Okay. So let's go down to the next section of this. Well, before I go on, we're about to move into, what you can actually do about it. Does anybody else want to throw out a comment to me of what they have seen that causes binge eating or overeating that I may not have put on the board back here? Like, what do you guys see? What's it been like for you? What have you seen in your friends and family? What in the heck causes binge eating and overeating? What have you experienced? Drop me a note if you have anything to say that has not already been put on this board up here, any hypothesis that you may have. So in summary, my main hypothesis would be that it's around the physiology of depriving yourself, causing an energy imbalance, restricting calories, exercising too much, eating poorly unnutritious food. That's the physiological part. And then the psychological part, which is body image issues, a culture that promotes an unhealthy body ideal, not having the coping skills necessary to manage emotions and eating instead, etc. All Spires, you're making me blush. So smart. Thank you, Spires. Yep, healthy eating is where it's at. And we're going to talk all about that. It's not about diets. Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us, Spires. I'll see you soon. Lack of sleep. Sure. So lack of sleep is a great one. Thanks, Brooklyn, for bringing that up. So when we don't sleep well, it essentially lowers our ability to read our signals accurately and respond in an intelligent way. So when we're not sleeping, our cortisol is jacked up, hormones are just out of whack, and naturally that's going to lead us to making unhealthy decisions. It also affects our signals for satiety and hunger. So you might feel hungry when you're not necessarily hungry. We also will eat just to get energy, like, oh, I'm so sleepy and tired, let me eat something to try and boost that back up. And we'll tend to even crave the sugary, high carbohydrate things that give us a quick boost, but that's followed by the big crash, as we all know, which completely sucks, right? We can all agree. I also had a note on here about hormone dysregulation. So whenever we are going into that cycle of restriction and dieting, it dramatically affects our hormonal system, men and women alike, but women especially. Our bodies are extremely sensitive because we need to be able to carry children at some point in our life. And even after into menopause, we still are extremely sensitive to any changes in energy balance and calorie restriction and excessive exercise. So it can alter your thyroid levels. It can alter your estrogen, progesterone, FSH. You will see your adrenal system, all the adrenal hormones get out of whack. And so it's a really gnarly cycle once people start to diet or restrict calories and once they start to binge. because both sides of that pendulum swing just create these huge shifts and fluctuations in hormones. And then it's almost like you're a slave to riding that hormonal wave over and over, and it just can't get back to the middle. So we want to get that pendulum back to the middle and not have these huge swings back and forth. Stephanie, great to see you. And hey, Josh, nice to see you on here. And you said, yeah, eat for energy. That does come up a lot. Please, and caffeine too. I'm always like trying to get my clients to like cut the caffeine out or down, because again, that's a false source of energy. It's not real. We need energy to come from a natural place, which is quality sleep, good food, you know, getting outside, fresh air, all of that, like a nice balanced lifestyle. Brooklyn says there's a study done where over 85% of those with bulimia were sexually assaulted as children. Do you think that could play a part in it? And if so, why? Oh man, that's huge. That would probably be a whole nother Facebook Live that I would do, because as some of you know that I work at a mental health treatment center where we also specialize in eating disorders. So yes, I can say that there's a really big link between any kind of trauma and eating issues, because there's a disconnection that happens in the body. When trauma happens, we tend to leave our body. It's not safe to be in here because this body is experiencing pain and it's scared and it's not a safe place to be. So mentally we sort of dissociate and leave the body. And once that dissociation happens, we don't hear the signals anymore. It's like, how do you read the signals of hunger and fullness when we're not living in that body anymore and we're dissociated? So that's a really common thing that happens, and it's a very complex issue. It takes a lot of time to heal. Thanks for joining us, Marvin. I really appreciate you being on here, and you can always catch up later. So good to see you guys. Okay, now I'm going to move into the next part, which is really around what do we do about this? So the body wants to survive, it wants to thrive, and say we're in this state of overeating and binge eating, and we're like, damn, what do I do about it? This is so frustrating. I feel like I'm out of control. The first thing you can do, number one, the biggest one, and this is the toughest one, but it works. Like this is the one that cuts through all the red tape, which is commit to stop dieting and stop restricting. And I know that's probably terrifying, because just imagine, what if we committed right now? We said, all right, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to restrict ever again. I'm not going to diet ever again. But then let's say we binge tonight. Oh my God, I just ate so much food. There's no way I'm going to get up in the morning and eat breakfast. I feel too guilty. I'm still full from tonight from overeating. There's no way I can eat breakfast. And I'd say that's exactly what you need to do. You need to commit, like number two, to eat nourishing foods. You need to honor your hunger and fullness signals, which at first will be really out of whack. So that number three comes later. But for number one and number two, this means that you will commit to having your 3 normal meals a day, just steady and even, just like if you were feeding a kid. You'd be like, all right, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, maybe some snacks too, depending on how high the metabolism is, how busy that kid or that person is. You commit to doing that no matter what. If you binge the night before, doesn't matter. You get up and you have breakfast, because if you don't, you're bringing that pendulum right back over to that side of energy imbalance. You're setting it up all over again. Every time you skip that breakfast, every time you make that tiny little lunch, that little salad, you're setting yourself up for the binge at night every single time. The only way to break the binge is to feed yourself consistently, day by day by day. It's this boring, middle of the road, no frills, like old school way of eating. It's eating like normal people eat, which is a normal balanced meal that just has all the macros. It has protein, has fat, has carbohydrates, and all the foods are highly nutritious. That means you're picking stuff that is like its own vitamin. It has all the vitamins and minerals in it. It's not, like we said above, the nutrient poor food. You're looking for nutrient dense, nourishing foods steadily throughout the day. And as you do that for several months, you'll notice that your hunger and fullness cues start to really get clear, and you'll be able to feel your body and say, oh, now I finally feel my normal hunger. Now I finally feel what fullness feels like. And when you commit to that, the binging will get less and less and less until it goes away. And then you can start honoring those signals. But when I work with clients at first, they can't really hear their signals. So it's not always the most helpful thing to just purely honor signals if that leads to more deprivation and dieting, like by skipping breakfast. Hopefully that's clear. Let me just check the comments real quick before I keep going. So let's see. Josh says, I know it's important to eat before you feel the need for energy. Do you have recommendations of when I should eat during the day? I try like every 4 hours or so, but I eat a couple of tangerines or an apple and I don't feel at all satisfied. Recommendations of time and what to eat. And then what are examples of nutrient-dense foods? Hey, Adam, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. So we're about halfway through. Josh, damn good questions, my friend. Very good. Okay, so yes, I like to have people, for people that are pretty active and have that higher metabolism, like they're young, they're busy, they're working, like, you know, to have breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner. So that would kind of equal out to eating like, let's say 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 2 or 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock. And maybe if you're still hungry at night, a little snack. Like for me, I've always had something kind of after dinner because it's just how my body works. So I even like an after dinner meal, and that's depending on you and how you operate. So Josh, if you're kind of like a busy guy, that might work for you. Those kind of intervals, like every 3 to 4 hours, maybe 3 would work better for you. And then what I'm seeing for you is like when you just have like an apple or tangerine, the thing is that's just pretty much carbohydrate, right? And I would recommend something with more balance to it. So that means carbohydrate, fat, and protein means you could have like an apple and tangerine with some nuts, right? Because the nuts would provide the protein and the fat. Or you could have like carrots and hummus as a snack, or pita bread and hummus. And then a meal would be, again, you want to think like some kind of vegetable or fruit is one section. You want to think about a protein source, which could be anything, you know, chicken, beef, seafood, whatever you like. For vegetarians, you know, beans, tofu. I'm not a fan of tofu for some reasons, but we won't go there. And then some kind of a starch, which could be like sweet potato, rice, quinoa, white potatoes, all different types of things. And you can even Google like most nutrient-dense foods, and you'll have a list pop up, you know, like blueberries. And really, I'd say anything that grows on the planet and looks the way it is on the earth, when you eat it, is nutrient-dense, right? It's less processed. You can identify it. Those are the foods to go for. Just the natural stuff. Like it's really simple food, nothing fancy. Like I don't eat anything that comes out of I don't eat any protein powders, none of that, because I don't know what a protein powder doesn't grow in a jar on a tree. So for me, that doesn't work for my body. I just would rather eat me a big lamb shank. Yeah, keep asking questions, guys. Josh, those were great questions. Does that answer your question? If not, then drop me another comment and I'll try to clarify more. So now we're getting down to number 3, 4, and 5. So eventually being able to honor your hunger and fullness signals. And this means you'll get to be what I call like a ninja or a master at really listening to your body, which means you pretty much know your rhythm and you can eat, like Josh said, before you get to that point of being starving or hangry. If you've gotten to that point, you've waited way too long. That means your blood sugar has dropped, your insulin is plummeting, and your body is freaking out. You don't want to get to that state. You want to eat just when you feel like that kind of like, I'm feeling a little bit of an appetite now. Like you can feel like your stomach might grumble just a little bit. You can just tell there's like this nice, gentle sensation in the body. That's when you know it's time to eat. Or you might just know based on the clock, because you know that pretty much every 3 or 4 hours, it feels best to your body just to grab something. You don't have to think about it too much. It should be easy and intuitive and simple. And the same thing goes with when you're actually eating, to just be able to feel your body and your fullness cues. And this is where we talk a lot about eating more slowly, because everybody's heard that whole thing about it takes 20 minutes before your body knows that it's full. And again, I think all people are different with that. That might just be a generalization. But chewing your food more thoroughly, taking more time with your meal, savoring it, really smelling it, seeing it, looking at it, like taking the time to appreciate what you're eating, gratitude for what you're eating instead of rushing through it will definitely help you when it comes to eating in a way that's actually loving and nourishing to your body. When we're just like driving down the road, shoving something in our mouth or with the keyboard typing and just eating whatever, you can't expect yourself to be in touch with your hunger and fullness cues, and you're setting yourself up to overeat or undereat, which again just starts the pendulum swing. So take the time for meals and actually sit and enjoy them. Eat them in a calm environment with people that you care about. Pick foods that are amazing, that you love, that you feel good about eating, that are very nourishing to your body. Like that will go a long way towards achieving a body that you feel good about, that's healthy and vibrant. So you don't have to be on this crap cycle of dieting, restricting, and binging and overeating because you're eating foods that aren't even good for you and your body doesn't even like, okay? Next, this is huge, number 4. To break that cycle of binge eating and overeating, you need to start to value health, energy, and happiness over aesthetics, okay? Again, like I said, that 6-pack, it might look fine, it's great, but it's not happiness. It's not necessarily health. It's not necessarily high energy. Maybe for some, but for most it might not be. Like really consider what you're giving up if you just chase pure aesthetics, okay? And start to think, how could you take care of your body in a way that boosts your health? What is the healthy choice right now? What's the healthy thing to do? What brings me happiness and makes me feel good? And what brings me energy? What brings me up and lightens me up and enlivens me? Those are the choices you need to make. If that's your compass that's always pointing north, you'll make good decisions, because restricting and dieting does not feel good. It does not create happiness. It does not bring you energy, right? And binging and overeating does not feel good. It does not bring you happiness or energy either. It's neither of those two extremes are healthy. So all I'm basically saying here is get in the boring middle. And the boring middle is where it's at. That's where you're going to find your health, your sweet spot, and a body that feels great to be in and looks its healthiest version of what it could be based on your genetics and your environment and everything you have to do in life. Like it's a simple mathematical equation in that way. And let's see here. No other questions so far. Okay, and the last thing I wanted to say when it comes to really breaking this cycle of binge eating and overeating is create an awesome tribe of other people who are on the same page as you, because we become like the people we surround ourselves with. And if we're hanging out with a bunch of people that are like, oh my God, I am so fat. I hate my body. I'm so on a diet right now. Like I'm totally going keto. You're going to want to do that too. If we're hanging around with people that hate on their body or only want to be with other people who look a certain way or they're obsessed with body image, then we're going to feel that too. But if we hang out with a tribe of people who just want to be their healthiest self and they love and accept each other at whatever that may be, and they promote each other being strong and kick ass and high energy and full of vitality, and they are also choosing foods that are amazing and nutrient dense and they take the time to enjoy them, you'll start doing that too. So pick the people you hang out with carefully and notice the way you think about your body and the way you talk about your body, and to try to create much more of a loving, health-based script for yourself. Instead of shaming yourself or beating yourself up or being disgusted with yourself, look to the positives of what you want to be and what you want to grow towards and what you aspire to, and make that happen and help others do the same thing. Practice what you preach. Live what you want your life to be like. Okay, guys, I love all your little hearts and likes. That's so awesome. As you can tell, I've gotten to the bottom of my beautiful whiteboard here, so that is the end of everything I have to say for you guys around binge eating and overeating. For those of you that tuned in kind of late, you can always go back and watch the replay. And for anybody that has like more personal questions, maybe you don't want to post something here in the comments, you're like, I'd really rather not share, but you really do have questions, that I really want you to reach out to me privately. Just send me a private message here on Facebook. Just ping me, and I'd be happy to set up a free 15-minute call just to talk about this with you and help give you some really actionable advice that you can use and just put to use, because I don't want to see people struggling with this. The solution really is much more simple than you could ever imagine. It just takes commitment and bravery to go there. And like I always say to people, if you commit to this path of giving up dieting, restricting, and just eating truly nourishing foods throughout the day, if you don't like the path, you can always go back to dieting and restricting and binge eating and overeating. Like that will always be there. You can always go back to it. But I dare you to try this other way. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. And once you go down this other path of the middle way with that pendulum right in the middle with the happy face, you're not going to want to leave it. You're going to love that sweet spot so much. It's going to be your new way of life. So guys, I'm bringing it to a close. If you have any comments or questions, now is your chance to drop them. Otherwise, I'm going to sign off and wish you all an excellent evening. And thanks again, all you guys from Lancaster Old School, for joining me. It's so cool to see people from so long ago. You guys are awesome. Okay, it looks like no other questions. Oh, Amanda, I didn't see that you jumped on. Great to see you, girl. Thanks for joining us. And David Price, too. Really nice to see you from LHS. Okay, looks like a couple here. Okay, so one question is, what are your thoughts on discussing or commenting on what someone looks like? It's so common in our society, but do you think that it is damaging, more damaging than it is positive? Man, commenting on what other people look like. That is such a tough one. Personally, I have a very strict no commenting rule, and I developed that as a personal trainer. As a personal trainer, my clients would come in, and I was very careful to not critique their body, because that just sets up this cycle of trying to get my approval. And if one day I didn't say, hey, you look great, then they automatically assume that I don't look great, and that must be bad. I don't think that our bodies, we don't have a sign on us that says, please comment. You know, it's really not appropriate, in my opinion, to comment on other people's bodies unless they've asked for direct feedback, in which case, give it to them in a very kind and compassionate way. But otherwise, I'd really recommend, and this also comes from my years of working in the field of psychology and mental health, that we want to really be careful about what we comment on and how we talk about other people and their bodies, and even how we talk about our own bodies. Because again, this kind of ties back to the culture that we live in. I really see that it's become very normal to just flippantly comment on how somebody looks, like whether it's good or bad. But both of those things can be damaging. Even if it is a positive comment, positive commenting like, girl, you look so fit, good job, can really be contributing to an underlying eating disorder that person may have, or body image issues. So just be very thoughtful with it and see what it's like to refrain. Like, what about not commenting on somebody's body, but commenting on other things? Like, wow, you just seem full of energy today, you know? Or great job on that thing you were doing. You know, it's similar to how when we're raising children, we definitely recommend to not comment on how their body looks. So there's a lot of thoughts around child rearing, and you guys can just read up on that. And I think that it applies to grown-ups as well. So great question, Danny. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that too, if you want to drop a comment, what you've experienced. Let's see, Hannah says, I think a really great way to think about it is that healthy looks different on everyone. God, that is so true. I was actually talking to Danny about this earlier. I think that both healthy and beautiful go hand in hand. And I was reminiscing back on the National Geographic spread that they did, where they had like women from all over the world. So you had like the round moon face, like Eskimo girls, and you had this like, I think it was an Indian woman with bright green eyes, and you had a really old lady with these deep furrows and this long, luscious, like whitish gray hair, and just all different shapes and sizes and colors of women, every different body type you could possibly imagine. And they were just glowing, you know, with health and vibrancy of, again, with their genetics predetermined, with their culture, you know, created, and they were all so beautiful in their own way. And I would love to see us just take that back and freaking own it. Like, own your version of health and sexy and vibrant and full of energy, like your version of it. Just rock that shit out and just put that noise away that's saying we all need to look like cookie cutter Barbies or something. Like, it's so old. Just, you know, I love that you brought that up, Hannah. Right on. Let's see. All right, guys, it looks like no more comments. Thank you, Danny. You're amazing, too. Takes one to know one, girl. It's been great talking to you guys, and Gravitas, I just love you all. I love your community, and it's so cool to just get to hang out and share some knowledge with you guys. And again, if you all have any questions on a personal note, feel free to just drop me a private message here on Facebook, and I'd be happy to answer it. And I hope you guys have an awesome night. Bye, guys.